Redditors who took terrible advice from r/relationshipadvice. What happened? One post that stood out for me was a guy asking for advice after finding out his girl was lying to him about where she went one afternoon. The whole comment section rallied with torches and pitchforks, telling him she's cheating and he should just leave. Anyway, turned out she lied cause she got him a lovely birthday present, a snake. Cause the guy loves snakes and met up with a breeder that afternoon to sort everything out. Glad the dude didn't listen and just asked her what happened instead. Was that the one where he was planning on buying her an engagement ring and her best friend came over to help him pick one and the GF told him that she was out with a best friend? Yeah, exactly that one. I didn't follow the terrible advice that they gave me. I posted there once basically to rant that my girlfriend and her roommates had given a temporal home to a street dog, and now that they had to move, the roommates wanted to get rid of the dog, put it to sleep, or put it back in the street because their new apartment didn't accept pets. So I took the dog in my home, and I was stressed because it was the first week and the dog was a handful, and the roommates didn't care at all. Relationship advice? Give the dog to a shelter because you will never love it, and break up with my GF because she's a horrible person and you will resent her. A user literally said this is the beginning of the end of your relationship. What did I do? Talk with my GF. Tell her I felt frustrated and that I really disliked that she and her friends had taken the dog out of the streets without thinking of the future. She told me she understood that and that she was going to pay for everything the dog needed until we, as a couple, could move in together, but that she wasn't going to act like the dog wasn't her responsibility. 2 years later, she has always paid for the food, vet, checkups, everything, and we are moving in together soon and taking the dog with us. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't listen to that terrible advice. So many people on that subreddit forget communication is a thing and go right to telling people to break up. I almost laugh at all those comments now. So predictable. Break up immediately. Don't talk it out. He/she is psychotic. Hire a lawyer. The only thing we know about them is the worst about them. I think that gets inflated into them being all bad. Ops should have to post one nice thing too. She set my bed on fire, but she does make great banana bread. Apostrophe. Nah man. It's just unhappy people who want to drag you down too. Knowing Reddit. Someone posts on the wrong sub asking how to make sourdough and winds up in therapy, divorcing their spouse. Red flag. The fact that your username has two Is in it makes me think you're extremely self-centered. That's a massive red flag. That's pretty hypocritical of you to say. On one hand, they helped me get the courage to leave a legitimately toxic relationship. Dude was super controlling and manipulative and was cheating on me the entire time. Then again, I also consulted with other people in my actual life like my parents and friends. On the other hand, they also told me to just walk up and kiss, without asking. My best friend whom I had a crush on. I was asking how I should talk to him about my feelings in a way that wasn't going to be awkward if he didn't feel the same. Also, asked opinions on if a guy I was talking to was planning on ghosting me. Everyone but assumed he was seeing another woman and that I should just let him go. Ended up asking him instead. And turns out he was having trouble with his anxiety and depression, and that he was too afraid to talk about it with me because he didn't want to scare me away, and that he wasn't just neglecting me. He was very appreciative that I asked him what was going on. The last 2 paragraphs sound like an advice teenagers would give, which isn't particularly rare on that subreddit. You run this risk when asking strangers for advice. There's no way after a paragraph or 2 that a group of redditors can have enough relevant information to give solid relationship advice. Obviously, if someone is seeking advice regarding abuse, cheating, or violence, any sensible person can tell the victim to leave the situation. But when it comes to nuanced and complicated relationship issues, taking internet advice from strangers is a total crapshoot. You might get solid good advice or you could get the worst advice ever given or anything in between. Which is why I ask friends instead of Reddit. I read the posts when I can't sleep at night, but have never/will never post. It's like a soap opera over there. I just enjoy reading the crazes. Sometimes when I'm really bored, I'll open any thread in /r/politics with 1500 plus comments and scroll all the way to the bottom. That's fun. I never posted, but used to read stories on there all the time. I eventually had to stop because I started getting overly suspicious about my husband. It was ridiculous. I was constantly looking for red flags in our relationship and ended up being the red flag. I haven't been back on there in years. This was kind of me. I've never had a relationship before, but sometimes I get anxiety about the future. Like, what if my future girlfriend cheats on me? I also used to read stories there too, and it boosted my anxiety so bad. Haven't been back there in a while, and I'm feeling pretty gawked. A guy a few days ago was posting about red flags with his girlfriend when she make a joke about being late, then instantly told him she was joking. And he was like, "This a red, right? I need to leave." Oh, period is full of red, so yes, he's not wrong. Saw a kid posting about how he wasn't getting along with his parents. They were making him work or something normal parents do. And Reddit told him he should basically confront them and tell them off. Next update post said that they kicked him out of the house. Not positive, but I think the Reddit lynch mob dropped the ball on that one. Not as bad as the guy who went on Reddit asking for advice about his wife asking for a divorce. A user suggested he consult with all the lawyers in the area so that there would be some kind of conflict of interest and they would not be able to consult his wife. He ended up getting so screwed because his wife's lawyer knew what he was doing and threatened stuff to make him stop. Ended up divorced. Ike. Do they expect that he just hold his wife hostage? If they're considering a divorce, you have much worse issues. It was so his wife would have had second pick when it came to finding the best lawyer. I may be remembering a completely different thread, but I believe the one being referenced had the wife having much more money and ability to get a lawyer than the husband. That's weird af. Like, there will be people saying to break up before communicating, and some people will say to stay and give a toxic relationship a chance, and they get upvoted, while logical replies get downvoted. Lol. I once argued with someone there that first the person should speak openly and honestly about what's bothering them before going straight to leaving. They responded, "I figure if they are posting for advice on Reddit, they've already taken the logical steps." Oh, how wrong you are, my friend. And yet I got downvoted. I wasn't the one getting advice. My girlfriend was. We had been together 6 years. Honestly, it had been long distance for a year. We were drifting apart. It definitely wouldn't have lasted regardless. But I went to her place for the weekend. Again, long distance at that point, so that's the only time I'd see her. And she point blank said it was over. There would be no changing her mind. It isn't up for discussion. Go home. It's kinda crazy, but I knew she used Reddit, but I didn't, and didn't know what it was. A couple months later I started using it, and found her by random coincidence. She was commenting on a news article directly related to her team at a university, and based on the username there's no way it could have been anyone else. I made the mistake of looking at her profile and seeing she was very active in relationshipadvice, and once I learned how that place operates it all made sense. This was about 6 years ago at this point, and it still affects me. After that much time, I feel I was at least owed the honest discussion of we need to try to fix this. She was such a major part of my life that it really ducked me up for a while. I almost lost my job due to constant panic attacks. Just generally being super unstable. ECT. Again. It never would lasted anyway. But those holes telling her to immediately break all ties with me hurt me worse than anything in my life, and it still has lasting effects. I hope you will get over her. I hit the lawyer, deleted the gym, and hired Facebook. I did the cat. Shane Dawson, I wish I could give you an award. God, I never go on that tub anymore, because everyone's solution is just to break up. Even if it's something small like not getting a haircut. Well, if he doesn't want to cut his hair for you, that means he doesn't value you or care about you as a person. Break up with him. Like, I wasn't even complaining about his long hair though. The only thing you can say to that is, yeah. Like how chicks who respect their so shave their armpits. Then get the popcorn ready. I didn't take the advice provided. I asked for help and tips into making a relationship healthy and how to communicate properly, as my parents had a very toxic relationship and I don't have much of an idea of what an actually healthy relationship looks like. I included a bit of my parents' relationship as an example of what I want to avoid. My boyfriend treats me amazingly and he's an absolute precious sweetheart. I made sure to include this in the post to avoid having to deal with some misconceptions. Well, guess what? I got told over and over to break up and to leave my boyfriend. That if it would be a good relationship I wouldn't have to ask for advice. Some people straight up told me that my parents' relationship is great and I should follow their footsteps. My father is a physically abusive alcoholic and my mother a mentally abusive one. No ducking thank you. After about 2 comments telling me to leave this wonderful man and encouraging a lot of the negative behavior shown from my parents, I just deleted the post and took a long but break from that subreddit. Still in a relationship. We are doing slightly better than we were during that time. Still rough but hey, who said relationships are easy? I'm sorry I just... Why is that 20 spelled with an O? I noticed that also haha. Sorry, I don't take advice from redditors. I only take advice from psychics. And you know what they told me? I needed to communicate more with my partner. Lol. That sub is the biggest shathola but I mean your fault if you let personal stuff be decided by 10-year-old trolls on Reddit. Mayo. That one and hater. I hate how someone will post their one-sided, exaggerated rant asking for advice and through the most narrow context ever, people tell them what to do. There are some that are so blatant. Like, my husband has been poisoning my food for the past 4 years and it's like, how the duck do you think going to Reddit is the norm? Go to the goddamn police. What the duck? Ran needs to get shut down. Just bottom everything on ATA. Relationshipadvice. Tifu. And confessions is fake because 99% of it is. Choosing beggars too. Choosing beggars is my favorite because the fake texts are fun to spot. One guy used a bizarre writing style that was very unique, but he used it for both people, so it was a dead giveaway. The guy finished every sentence like this. For both of the characters in this fiction, the sentences always ended with a space and exclamation mark. I'm pretty sure the op was a regular on the sub, so it's pretty embarrassing that the people in the sub don't pick up on such terrible and unique grammar. I feel like I have never gotten terrible advice, but however was terrible at executing the advice, therefore ending any chance I had at having the relationship happen. Please tell me I'm not the only one who feels this way. It always seems easier in writing, doesn't it? If you have no emotional attachment to a situation, you see it completely differently. It's why it's so hard to understand PTSD, or people who stay in abusive relationships, or have self-destructive habits. It's like the difference between reading a plot summary of a sad movie and actually watching it. Two completely different experiences. There's a saying that goes, don't take advice from people who don't have to live with the consequences. It's imperfect, but it gets the point across. People give advice they wouldn't be willing or able to follow should they find themselves in a similar situation. The people who say here's what I did when something similar happened are the ones I take more seriously. To be fair, that doesn't always mean it's bad advice, especially in a relationship context. If anything, I'd argue that our emotions can sometimes blind us to the reality of a situation, which is why a rational outside perspective can be invaluable. I've seen some people get real help, they're getting a push to run from a toxic partner, and that is good, but lately I felt like it's not a good place for someone like me who's never sure of their relationships and feelings you might G-swayed too easily. I asked what do to about a toxic friendship I wanted to end. The suggestion was ghosting her. I went for it because the alternative was confrontation. She got her mum to badger my dad about why I was ignoring the message she sent a few days before. The message was asking about the same relationship advice she always went to me for and ignored. I eventually just sent a huge message I spent days writing and having my husband check over to make sure it was as nice as it possibly could be. I didn't bring up that she was hugely toxic and that I was terrified of her. I just said I thought we had drifted apart and we weren't friends anymore. She blew up, exactly as I knew she would, saying she thought we were best friends. She said to my face we weren't years before. We were close as anything. She messaged me exclusively to ask for advice she'd ignore and to show her hanging out with our old group and that I should have let the friendship die. She went crying to mummy when I tried that. The absolute kicker was that this all happened just after her 21st birthday. She got our old friend group together for a weekend in a cabin in the woods to drink and play games. I found out through Facebook photos, but was still totally her best friend. After I pointed out all the inconsistencies between what she said and what had happened, she said some more angry things and blocked me. I cried the whole night. She came crawling back early this year, once again using my dad as a weapon and getting him to ask if she was allowed to message me. She blocked me, remember? I'll let her message me. She immediately tried to pretend nothing had happened, as usual for when we fought. I was having intense surgery literally the next day, so I just asked why she wanted to message me. She said she still wanted to be friends. I said I didn't, but that it didn't mean we had to hate each other. She didn't respond. I saw her recently at the hospital after a follow-up appointment. Both she and her mother glared at me the whole time. So nice to know they're being grown-ups. Oh god, she sounds horrific. Gee. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you want more videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. You are helping me a lot. Thanks again.